Broadcasting live from the Oregon Convention Center in Portland, it's Tap Tap Concede. Hey everybody, it's sort of cobbled together from the road, Tap Tap Concede, which you may be only seeing an audio-only version. We're recording video for it.
How do we do this? Do we look at the camera the whole time?
No, I think we're just going to have to sort of
look at each
discuss
other.
one another, and then we'll be talking to the microphone.
How did they see an audio-only version?
That's true.
They may only have found a link to an audio-only version. Let's put it that way. And so maybe video is working, maybe not. But we have a special guest with us. We have our good friend Marshall.
Hi.
Yeah,
I'm happy to be here.
We've mentioned on the podcast many times because of course you host the Limited Resources podcast.
Yeah, I'm an avid listener of Tap Tap Concede, so I'm pretty excited to be on Tap Tap Concede.
That's super cool. Thank you. I'm really pleased that you listen to the show.
He just says that.
I listen every week.
I'm aware you listen to
I make notes. Like I always want to get on Twitter and like respond in real time, and then I go, "Oh, I'm that guy for them."
And so this is Sunday night. There has just been 4 days really
of magic.
Of the GP here, because Cascade Games went bonkers and turned it into like a little mini convention. That there was, of course, the main Team Sealed event, which I think we'll tell you all about on the next episode. We'll tell you about our GP experience in the next episode. But right now we have Marshall here, so we're going to be talking to him about some stuff. But first, we got to crack a pack.
Yeah,
and
I was going to say, we better do this quick because I can't stare at this.
Okay, so very quickly.
For very long.
It is a pack of Modern Masters.
Yeah.
Something new that was introduced at this GP was a ticket system. So whenever you won an event, you got a certain amount of tickets. You could also get packs, but everybody sort of opted for tickets because they had this prize wall. For which you could buy all sorts of stuff.
It was 10 points per pack.
10 points
so
per
if
pack.
you won 4 packs for something, you could just take your 4 packs.
Yeah, you could opt to take 4 packs.
Or you can take 40 points.
Sure.
And then trade up for something. In worst case scenario, at the end of the day, Sunday, you just say, yeah, I didn't get anything else. Give me my 4 packs. Here's 40 points. Or you could save up for other stuff.
Exactly.
And
So one of the things that you could get for 90 points was a pack of Modern Masters.
The equivalent of 9
packs
of M15.
So
I don't know that I would have made that trade.
That's not.
To be fair,
that's not good value. I don't
personally,
want more
at least,
50.
we do not need more M15. Do you want more just random packs of core set?
I have plenty.
Yeah, and
exactly.
I've opened plenty already. So let's open this pack at Modern Masters.
Can I open it?
Oh,
You
yeah.
can open it.
Go for it. You get to.
Modern Masters.
You're the special guest.
Yeah.
You got to
It better be good.
Oh, yeah,
It better be good. It
vintage.
was 90 tickets. That better be good.
Yeah, no kidding. All right.
Remember, there's also a foil in this pack no matter what.
Oh, yeah, right,
Yeah.
right,
I'm
right.
not gonna.
Yeah,
I'm
we
not
won't.
for that.
It's been a while since I've cracked Modern Masters.
Yeah, this is fun doing Crack a Pack on a different show.
Yeah.
All right.
So Warren Pilfers is our first card. That's the goblin that lets you grave dig something back, and it gets haste if what you grave dug back was a goblin.
Yep.
Oh yeah, weird. Yeah, that guy was pretty okay.
Pretty good,
I
right?
actually never once played the Goblin deck in Modern Masters.
The Goblin
Really?
was a
yeah,
lot of fun.
I had it played against me a bunch, and I know it's good. I just never found myself in it.
Yeah, it's super linear. Like, it's like the deck that when you get the good copy of it, forget it.
Yeah.
Like, you just boom, and like it's pretty tough to deal with. It has some interesting answers. You know, remember Warren Weirding is in this set as well.
Oh, that card's so annoying.
Yeah, but it was all about Mad Auntie.
Right.
Or Mad Auntie, maybe
Auntie.
you guys say. Yeah, and Mad Auntie was the card. That used to be a rare. They bumped it to uncommon. So you could pick up maybe 2 of them, or if you ran really good, maybe 3 of them.
Yeah.
Especially because not that many decks really wanted the card outside of this Goblins deck. And oh my goodness, that turned the deck into just a destroyer. If you, like, your deck's power quality or power level was basically based solely on how many of those you had, because all the rest were pretty interchangeable.
Yeah,
Sure.
I remember actually pretty recently they brought MMA back for like a week or something, and I had someone pull Warren Weirding against me when I had I can't remember what it was. I was in the Giants deck, so I had 2 Warspike Changelings, and I was like, okay, I will sacrifice a Goblin and get 2 1/1s out of the deal.
Yeah.
Not a good play.
No. Speaking of the Giants deck, here's an Avian Changeling.
I love
That
it.
card's so good.
Yeah, an Avian Changeling, I mean, also a goblin, like you mentioned.
Sure. Yeah.
Classic card, too. The cool part about this thing is that when it first came out in Lorwyn, people were like, yeah, whatever.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's like, sure.
I don't get it. Who
it's
cares?
a 2/2 flyer for 3, like, sure, I'll play that.
Yeah.
Right? And then they realized that this card actually was way more powerful just by virtue of being a changeling.
Well, we've seen that with Mutavault over the last little while.
Yeah.
If it can be anything, that's really relevant.
Yes, and this ended up being really relevant as well. And then they put it in Modern Masters, and same exact thing happened. It's
Yep.
just, it's a giant.
It's
Yeah.
a giant.
Like-
it's a goblin. It's
Yeah,
whatever you need
it's
it
a
to
rebel.
be.
That was a big one.
Yeah.
Searching this thing up with the rebel searchers.
I think
was
my
fantastic.
favorite changeling, just from an art standpoint, is the I can't even remember the name of it. It's like the like game trail changeling.
The green one.
Yeah, the goofiest looking moose
of
you've ever
moose
seen.
Oh, yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah.
You're just like, hello, I am Moose.
Yeah.
Trust me, don't worry, I'm here. Do Moose time.
Yes. Next we've got Skyreach Manta.
It's fine, I guess. It's fine unless you're in.
Fine, I
It's-
guess.
Unless you're in the domain deck. Well, I guess all
I
of
mean,
these
the-
are.
the
these,
domain deck is
all of these
pretty
are only.
good.
What am I talking about?
They're all very
All of these
good.
are only good if you're in there. Not only good, but all of these are mostly good if you're in that specific.
Yeah, I think it is fair to
Thing.
put them in their own like you just don't play this unless you are in that deck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the interesting part is that this isn't where you start
No,
with that deck.
that's true.
You need to pick up
You
the
don't. You
Kodama's
don't.
Riches.
You take it late if you know you're in that deck, and then you're like, hey, I got a 4/4 flyer for 5.
Yeah, basically this is the payoff.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
the
that
way
or-
you get
that
paid
or
off on
Trump the
this.
Domains.
Well, so Trump the Domains is a reason to play the deck.
Yeah.
But this is the payoff in the sense that like you don't actually take this here, but maybe there's a one of the ramp or fixer spells in here. We take that, and then this comes back because we're the only deck that wants it.
Right.
So we get this for cheap, right? We get to take it 9th or 8th.
Did I just see artifact creature fish?
Yes, it's a fish. It's a manta.
I know. Yeah, I just
manta
didn't.
ray.
I never
Yeah.
noticed that before.
Very large manta ray. One of my favorite things about this card is that if you flicker wisp it, it dies. So I've done
does,
that
yeah.
many times
Yep.
before and just been like, that thing.
Gotcha.
And that is in the set.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thallid?
The Thallid Bowl.
Sure.
Yeah. This is not the one you want.
No.
No.
Yeah.
You
You'll
want
grab it later if you want.
The 05. The 05 wall is very good. This one, less so.
Or the Pallid Mycoderm.
Yeah, Pallid Mycoderm and white does great too.
Careful flicking the cards so close to the mic.
Oh, sorry.
worry about
Face Vaulter.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
It's just
In the same
Yeah.
same pose, same exact pose and composition as Wild Nakadal
Yep.
on the art.
Oh,
Yeah.
is that like a
he's-
thing?
It's by the
try-
same artist.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's trying
it's-
to be a wild Nakadal.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Except for it has like horns.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
I
little-
mean, it's
it's
a
a little
goblin. It's
uglier.
just dressed up as a Nakadal.
But I mean, it's got like actual.
Yeah,
either
like
that
actual
or
horns.
it's a hat. But.
It's Wayne Reynolds. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Fairy Mechanist.
Yeah. He's sweet.
I love this card. This is one of the best cards for the blue-white deck.
The blue-white sort of artifact. I mean, I guess affinity deck.
Yeah, calling it Affinity is probably
Is
like
not-
how we call the modern Affinity deck. Like,
Yeah.
it gives you an idea of what it's trying to do. It actually does have Affinity cards in it, though.
Yeah,
right?
but
like
but
Mirror Enforcer, Frogmite.
Yeah, I remember initially though everyone was like, right, yeah, of course, Frogmite is perfect. And then by the end of Modern Masters, people were like, Frogmite's just only like kind of a dull thud in that deck.
Yep.
That's exactly. Yeah, it just ended up not being a good payoff.
Yeah.
Gleam of Resistance.
Sweet, yeah, it's
Yeah,
fine.
more of a mana fixer than anything.
Yep.
Here's another card
Ooh,
that we
for
can
the
use.
domain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Drag Down.
yeah.
Again, in the domain deck, also you'd see this pop up in the black-blue list occasionally, just
Yeah.
to be able to kill like a pesky flyer that was getting in the
It's
way.
it's 2 and a black instant. Target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn for each basic land you control, or each type of basic land among the lands you control.
Yes.
So if you only have a swamp, it gets -1/-1. But if you have 3 things, if you have a swamp, a forest, and an island, it gets -3/-3, and that is sweet.
It is, and of course, you can do it all the way up to the domain deck where you're giving something -5/-5 at instant speed.
At instant
Yes.
speed.
So that's
for
like
3 mana.
in combat,
Yeah.
even if it's huger than that, you can just kill it. But it kills pretty much everything anyway.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Pestermite.
Pestermite.
2
This
and a
is
blue.
a card
That is a
I'm
card.
interested in.
2 and a
yeah.
blue flying fairy flash. When it enters the battlefield, you tap something
Or
untap something.
Yeah.
Sorry.
and it's any something.
Yeah.
I've seen people just sort of like lock out mana for a turn, just to like tempo someone.
Yeah, this is a card like Flicker Wisp that is like one of the most powerful cards in the game because what it can do, or the number of things it can do, is so high. Number of relevant effects it can have for the game. Flicker Wisp, especially good when you combine it with an Ether Vial. This has flash anyway, so
Yes.
Who cares?
Like it actually, like it doesn't seem like it's. In fact, I would go so far as to say it's not like a major effect, but it is a very versatile effect.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And you know, Jerry, you brought it up. I've done that a million times with this. Or was it you? Turn 3, play it, tap down a land.
Yeah.
And they're just like, land go.
Yeah.
Especially if they haven't done anything yet. And you get your Air Force online for the fairy stack, and
Yeah.
you can start moving forward and start beating down. I mean, this thing's a 2-power flyer. Like, it actually does quite a bit of damage over the course of a game. So our next card is Search for... Not today.
Tomorrow?
We're looking for tomorrow here, kids.
What about yesterday?
You can't find it with this card.
No.
Okay.
That's Peer Through Depths.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But Search for Tomorrow, you know, sort of the lesser version Kadama's Reach, but absolutely serviceable. This card's good.
Yeah.
Like, this card's very, very good.
So it's 2 and a green, sorcery, search your library for a basic land,
Yep.
and put it onto the battlefield. Not tapped.
Yeah.
But onto the battlefield.
Yeah, that's the key.
But it also has suspend 2 for a single green.
Yep.
And I tell you, it's one of the, like, it's not like, I wouldn't, you refer in like your Sunset show as like the biggest groan test or something. I wouldn't say this is that high, but I was never thrilled when my opponent was like, turn 1, forest, suspend, search for tomorrow. I was always like, oh,
He's gonna have so much more mana than me.
something awful is gonna happen in a couple turns.
Yeah.
Right,
And
it's
I
gonna
can't
be
do
bad
anything
for
about it.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially the deck that wants this the most is really that 5-color deck.
Yeah.
So this gets it, of course, the ramp going and the fixing at the same time, and for very cheap. In fact, for the most part, in Modern Masters and most limited formats, there's just not relevant things to do on turn 1 very often, and this
exactly.
gives you that. And you just sort of put it away, and then you can keep developing your board. And
A couple turns later, you get to cast a 4-drop.
Later, you're casting a 4-drop.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
Best uncommon in the set.
Ooh, best
Cloud
on.
Ranger?
Yeah, Cloud. I was gonna say Cloud.
Cloud Go Ranger.
Hey, it is the best uncommon in the set.
I think it is, yeah. It competes with a lot of the rares. In fact, I mean, this card is like, it's one of those cards that's just very easy to understand. Like, you just read it and you're like, oh, wow. And the thing is, I think that it's easy to overlook how good it really is. But when you look at it, so it's 3 white for a 3/3 giant warrior.
Fine.
It's a giant.
Yeah.
That could be relevant. But even without that, you get 3/1/1 white soldier tokens, okay? And they're
So that's 6 power and 6 toughness across 4 creatures.
for
5 mana.
Yeah.
Now there's also an activated ability we'll talk about in a minute, but like timeout. Like since when does white get 6 power and 6 toughness for 5 mana? With no drawback.
Yeah.
In fact, it's pure upside here. Like
Yeah.
that just doesn't happen. And the fact that they're spread out over 6 creatures makes it so that combat is either very good for you or not. It just depends, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's got this ability. You can tap 3 untapped Kithkin you control. That can be any Kithkin, but
It's probably
his
gonna be
friends.
yeah.
And he gets +2/+0 and has flying, so he can actually attack for 5 in the air if you happen to be ahead. If you're behind, this thing just stabilizes the board.
There are, not that it matters, there are other Kithkin in the format.
Yes, we've already opened one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here it is,
The changeling.
Yeah.
That's true. All the shapeshifters, of course, count. But I mean, like, there's Kithkin Greatheart and like something Meadowboon, whatever. And it doesn't matter. It comes with everything it needs. Yeah.
No, totally. And this card is a study in raw power. Like that's all it is. Like it does cool stuff and it's got some tricks, but the ultimate thing is that they pushed the hell out of this. This card could have been take away the whole second ability altogether. Make a 3/3 with a 1/1 token. And it would have been like, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like that would have been an early pick and would have been played. As it sits, ridiculous.
You know what the thing I like the least about it is that if I'm in the Giants deck,
Yeah.
every other card for the Giants deck, no one else wants. But no matter what they're doing, even if they're like only maybe in white, and they open this pack too, they're taking the Cloud Goat Ranger.
Yep.
So in the Giants deck, you like never get the best Giant.
That's true. You have to open it.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, like the Artifacts deck, which is a heavily synergy-based deck, we'll just stop and drop everything for a Cloud Goat Ranger.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That is okay. Tar Pitcher.
This
Very good Goblin card.
Yeah, this guy's pretty sweet. It's
Yeah.
3.
Fails a vanilla test pretty poorly.
Yeah, 3 in a red for a 2/2 goblin, and then but you can tap and sack a goblin. Could be him. Usually that's the last goblin you would sack to shock something, deal 2 damage to target creature or player.
Yeah. Very strong card. Really gives the Goblin deck some resiliency, gives it some long range, lets you attack a bunch of times, and then put, like when your opponent's kind of trying to get set up, and then they're like, okay, here's a Cloud Goat Ranger and a guy, and they feel like they've, hit some type of a stable board state, and then you play Tar Pitcher and just start chucking goblins at their face.
And
TikTok.
Mog War Marshals in the set. You can get the tokens.
If you can
Yeah,
barf
if you
out
can
some tokens, then I
tokens.
think you're pretty happy.
Is-
Yeah, and that's a sweet combo.
Siege Gang's not in Modern Masters.
Not Siege Gangs.
No.
Yeah, so our next card,
In before Terrible Rare.
Tree Folk Shaman token. Got
Nice.
you. Okay.
Nice.
See what you did
I'm
there.
not letting you see. What do you mean terrible? Do you know what rares are in this set?
Yeah,
This could be a
some terrible
Tarmogoyf.
ones.
This
It
could,
could-
be a,
it
James,
could be
James just knows
Tarmogoyf.
it's his pack.
It's
so-
my pack, so
Confidant?
it's terrible.
it could be a Sword of Fire and Ice.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay.
I'm going to look at it without.
Yeah, keep
showing
the rare hidden. Let's do
Alright.
the
Okay, let's do the last
next
uncommon.
Next uncommon.
I'll give you a hint.
Okay. But what? The rare or the next
The rare.
uncommon?
It's a mythic.
Ooh.
It's a terrible mythic.
Yeah. It'll be a dragon.
It'll be a dragon. All right, so what do we get?
Apocryphite is our last.
Hypocrite's sweet.
I like that card.
So Apocryphite
It's a 1/1.
does its job.
Yeah. So it's a 1/1 artifact creature for 2. That's it. It doesn't It looks like it should fly. It doesn't fly. It's just a 1/1.
It does look like it's hovering.
It
You're
does.
right,
It looks like it's like sort of above the ground.
I think it looks like a silverfish. Like
Yeah, it's got some little
crawling.
thingies there.
There's things that with
Little
legs like that.
buckety legs, yeah.
Oh. Anyway, when it dies, or no, sorry. So I'm reading them out of order. But when it dies, you exile it with 3 time counters on, or suspend counters. You'd probably just call them casually, but they're time counters, and it's as if it had suspend. So it'll come back in 3 turns. Well, 3 upkeeps of yours, so 4 upkeeps, I guess, of yours, right? 3 time counters. So then your next turn, 1, 2, 3.
It goes 2, 1, 0. When the last one comes off, it comes
Yeah. Okay. So 3 turns later, it comes back. If you didn't cast it from your hand, it enters the battlefield with 3+1/+1 counters. So when it comes back from that, it's a 4/4. And then again, if it dies, it goes to suspend zone again, and then comes back 3 turns later as a 4/4. I guess they worded it that way because if you reanimated it, it would enter as a 4/4.
Have I mentioned Flicker Wisp?
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
going to say, join me
exactly.
for my new modern deck with Hypocrite, Flicker Wisp, and Warden from Beyond.
Yes, there you go. Value.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that thing's sweet. Unfortunately, its base stats are a little slim. It's
1/1,
2
yeah.
colorless mana. It's easy to cast, but just a 1/1.
Yeah.
One
Usually you
thing-
just block with it. Like, God willing, you trade with something with 1 toughness, but generally you're just chumping with it, and then it's going to come back angrier.
Yeah, there's 2 really cool uses for Apocryphite. The first one is in a storm deck. You can, because it's actually being cast again when it comes off
Right.
of suspend. So you can block with it just to like save 3 or 4 damage or whatever, and then time your turn as Apocryphite ticks down on when you're going to go off.
Right.
So there's one spell, and then maybe you play Manamorphose and another Manamorphose, and then you say Empty the Warrens, and boom, you got 8 Goblin tokens just like that. And that's pretty cool. And a 4/4, by the way, with haste at 4/4. Right?
Oh, yeah, it gets haste, too, because
Yeah.
any creature coming out of suspend has haste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's another cool way to use it. I guess a Flicker Wisp was one. There was something else, but now I can't remember. If I remember, I'll say it though. But overall, though, not an amazing card, just a merely good one. Do we want to see the foil or the?
Do you know what the foil is?
No.
Okay, look at the foil. Is it?
Do you want me to tell you? the
Let's go
of the foil?
rarity.
It is a common.
Okay, so let's go with the foil.
Yeah. What's our foil?
Echoing Truth.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Sure, that
That's
is.
a good response to the Empty the Warrens we just talked about.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
totally.
it's 1 and a blue instant, return target creature to its owner's hand, and all, permanent, turn non-land permanent, and all non-land permanents that share that share the same name.
That's
Yes.
right.
So
I would say this is like a sideboard blowout, but it's actually a very main deckable card as well.
You can main deck it. You do need some card advantage to back it up because a lot of times you're only getting a tempo play off of it.
Yeah.
A lot of times that's all you need as well.
Sure.
Though. Yeah, the card does serious work, and it's a really nice one against the Thalids deck as well. You kind of wait for them to move in. It actually teaches you to be careful about when you remove the counters from. Like, I'll often just leave the spore counters on my Thalids until the last second,
Right.
if I'm not going to be attacking with them anyway.
Yeah.
Because of this card. Like,
Sure.
you don't want somebody to just be like, zzz,
Yeah,
just
and
get all
all
your
you-
guys.
yeah.
Yeah. So Echoing Truth is a nice little, mainly a sideboard card. Like you said, there are decks that want it in the main too.
all right.
Okay.
You think about mythics you want. I'm calling dragon.
DC. Goyf. The swords are mythic.
Swords are mythic.
There's some planeswalker. One? Is it just one? Elspeth?
Elspeth.
I think it's just Elspeth,
I
right?
think it's just Elspeth.
I can't remember any other planeswalkers in that set.
Is
Like, the numbers are in my favor.
Oh yeah.
Like 5 of the mythics
I'm still
are
all
those
in on terrible
stupid
mythic.
dragons.
Vial came back
Oh,
as
the
a
ones
rare,
from
right? Like
Kamigawa
it's
block.
not. It's
Yeah,
not
I guess
all
I guess it's
all
not
the-
that.
Yeah,
all
the
those shit
Kamigawa dragons.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about
Yeah,
like
he's trolling.
Jugan and
Yeah. It's the blue one. Flip it.
Elspeth Night Arrow.
Hey, all right.
That's sweet.
That's,
That is
that's
awesome.
sweet. Okay.
Elspeth is super cool.
Elspeth is super awesome. One of the best planeswalkers ever made. They brought planeswalkers out with Lorwyn block, and then just a couple of blocks later, they're like, or actually technically the next block with shards, they're like, hey,
We're gonna make the
let's
best
go
planeswalker.
+1/+1. Like, what could possibly go wrong with that?
Yeah.
And it's really funny too because this has always been one of the most fascinating cards to do from a card evaluation perspective, because what I think they actually screwed up, and I do think this card was a little bit of a screw up, like it was so strong, although if you played Standard at the time, it actually didn't see a ton of playing Standard because Standard was absurd at the time. But even then, this card is still good. And I think that they try to ratchet down the +1 abilities as much as, like, what's the least we can do? Well, we can give him a 1/1 soldier. Like, that's not worth a spell, right? That's like about the least. Or we can give a creature +3/+3 and fly until end of turn. That's a temporary effect that leaves Elspeth, exposed. It's not like a big thing. But what I think didn't do was notice that she's 4 mana for 4 loyalty, and then automatically has 5 loyalty no matter what. Yeah, and can make creatures to protect herself, and that's one of the things that we see this day every time, right? It's like whenever we see a new planeswalker, what's the first thing we ask? Does it protect?
How does it not die?
Yeah,
how does it not die? And Elspeth is really one of the originals that could protect herself.
Over the course of the last couple of weeks, while we've been like preparing for this this GP, and at the GP as well, I've played with Jace and seen Jace played with a whole bunch of new Jace from M15, and that's been really interesting because, of course, like he can protect himself, but it costs a lot.
Yes.
But it's been very interesting to see how reluctant people are to like take down the Jace to protect it when it's like, no, that is the idea.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you can see with the new Jace that they've started playing around with that idea because a new Jace comes in at huge loyalty. Is he like 5 and goes to 6 or whatever?
Yeah.
So even though you have to go down if you want to actually take a creature off the board, you get the marginal manipulation effect on the plus. But now they're really testing it out and saying, well, we're not going to give you the ability to get huge loyalty and protect yourself. Like that's the problem with Elspeth.
Yeah.
But we are going to give you huge loyalty. And I mean, if you have any type of board state at all, your opponent is going to be pretty hard pressed to get 6 damage into Jace that early in the game.
Yeah.
So we should just real quick, just for those who might not be familiar with this particular version of Elspeth, she is a mere 2 white.
The original Elspeth.
Yes.
Yeah.
For 4 loyalty, and she has, as Marshall said, 1/1 that says put a 1/1 white soldier creature token onto the battlefield. Sweet. A second +1 that says target creature gets +3/+3 and gains flying until end of turn, which is good for some serious. Like if you don't need the protection, if your ground is already solid, then you just jump a guy and smack him.
Yeah, because this is
that's good.
+3/+3, and whatever that creature is.
Yeah.
It's a 2/2, that's 5.
That's 5 damage.
That's 25% of your starting life total.
that could just close out a game.
And then -8, which is not that far off.
No.
-8 is you get an emblem. Was this the first emblem?
Yes.
Yeah, you get an emblem with artifacts, creatures, enchantments, and lands you control are indestructible.
Yeah, it was interesting because the original doesn't actually say emblem, like it didn't exist yet.
for the rest of the game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
But there was no reminder, no physical way
Right.
to know that. So since it's in Modern Masters, they've printed it that way, and they've even printed
They've actually printed her emblem in the set.
And the original, it didn't come with one, and there wasn't a token for it out of shards.
Right. Well, they didn't actually start doing the tokens until after Scar's block, because like Venser's token, Koth's token, they don't exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, they do now because they put them in the dual deck.
Yes, I've seen them. I can see the face. I can see this.
Good for them.
He's
All right,
sitting
cool.
there. I actually have a cool story about Elspeth.
Yeah, bring it.
So, in 2009,
Right.
I don't think I had started the podcast yet, and I was very noobish. Like I was loving Magic. I had dove back in and had found it so much better than I did before because now I had Ryan to show me, and I was like really enjoying the competitive aspect of it, though I was pretty bad. Let's just be honest here, right?
It's nice. It's refreshing that when you encounter someone who remembers that they were bad once.
Yeah, and
rather than just not being able to understand why
terrible.
not being able to understand how someone could possibly ever be bad.
Right. Yeah, I know a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
I am not one of them. So so at this point, though, I was concentrating on draft because I had found my passion, and that was what I was going for.
Because it's the best.
Because it's the best. But the bigger tournaments in the area were standard.
Right.
For example, this is when regional still existed, when it fed the national system that we have replaced now and do in a much different way. So somebody told me that there was a tournament. And I'm like, I want to play in a tournament.
Sounds sweet.
So what do I do? And they're like, well, you need a standard deck. And I'm like, okay. And I was online. I had been drafting online. And I had some rares even. And I borrowed a few cards from Ryan. And this is before he worked at Wizards or anything like that. And I bought a few. I like paid money for cards online, which for me was like a bit. I was like, geez, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Yeah.
You're really buying in now.
Nobody finds out about this. So I bought the cards and I made a deck. Like I built it. And it was around the card that I thought that was the coolest at the time, which was Rafiq of the Many.
Yeah.
And this is before Commander was a thing.
Yeah.
So Rafiq didn't have this sort of ominous. Like Rafiq was actually considered more of a.
I loathe playing against Commander players with Rafiq.
Rafiq is so nasty, right? And they always do some shroudy stuff, and you're just like, I can never beat that.
But it's more of a Timmy card at the time. It's like more
card. It didn't get any playing standard at all at the time. Like I was the only one playing it there. There was another faction of people playing regionals, or faction of people in the other part of the country that had developed a similar deck that I found the list for a couple of days before our regionals, and I made a couple of adjustments to mine, but my deck was pretty sweet. It was so the idea was Finest Hour had just come out, so I played Rafik and Finest Hour. And I played Shore Crasher Mimic.
So remind
Okay.
Okay, first of all,
This was the best.
okay, let's for the benefit of the listeners, Rafik does.
So Rafik, it costs 1 and then Bant. So green, blue, white.
Yeah.
And he's a 3/3, and he's got Exalted. So that's whenever a creature attacks alone, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. But he's got super crippling awesome Exalted, where he gives double strike to the creature that's attacking alone as well.
Right. And so then Finest Hour.
And Finest Hour is an enchantment that costs 2 and then the same thing. So it's 5 mana. And it says, whenever a creature attacks alone. Okay, so first off, the enchantment has Exalted.
Right.
So the creature gets +1/+1.
Yeah.
And then it says, whenever that creature attacks alone, you get to untap it and you can attack again.
Again.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it can be with a different creature. You get another attack step,
step.
basically.
Right. So you get to
but only for the one creature.
So you get to attack with a creature. It gets Exalted off Rafik, Exalted off Finest Hour, and it gets Double Strike off Rafik. And then you get to untap it, and then you get to have another combat step with the same creature if you want, or someone else.
Yes. And then I played Shore Crasher Mimic, which was 1 and then a hybrid green-blue. So it's a 2-drop. And it was like...
This is from Shadowmoor, isn't
Yes.
it? Yeah.
And it was like a 2/1, I think, in its base stats. I can't remember for sure. And whenever you played a spell that was both blue and green, which rewind a little bit,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
both
It's
of
everything.
the 2 spells that we just mentioned are both of those, it became a 5/3 with trample, 4/2 with... So it became huge. I think it's actually just a straight up 5/3 with trample.
I'll look it up real quick.
Yeah, so you look that up. So the way the deck worked is you would play that. So oftentimes, Noble Hierarch was relatively new, only one set old at this time. So you play Noble Hierarch.
Yeah.
Then you play the Shore Crasher Mimic or whatever. And then the next turn you can play Rafik, because now you're on turn 3, but you've got 4 mana available. So you play Rafik, it triggers the Shore Crasher Mimic. It gets big, I think it's like a 5/3 with trample.
So yeah, it's a 2/1 for 1 and a hybrid Simic. And yeah, whenever it becomes a 5/3 with trample.
With trample.
Yeah.
Then so now you play Rafik, and now it becomes a 5/3, and your opponent's like, oh, okay. And you're like, attack.
Yeah.
So you get an Exalted trigger off of Rafik and one off of Noble Hierarch.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about 7.
a 7/5
trample.
double strike
Yeah.
trample.
And then the next turn, on turn 4 of the game, you play Finest Hour, and you do the same thing again, and your opponent is dead. Like, don't care what blockers you have, I don't care what you're doing, you're dead. Like, you're very
Trample.
dead.
The interaction between trample and double strike
Is
is
absurd.
Yeah, it's
super
really
gross. Can you just quickly outline it if someone's unfamiliar with it? Because it is actually like it's second only to trample and death touch for my favorite weird keyword interactions.
So basically the way it works is if somebody blocks your trampling double striking creature, you are obligated to put
Lethal
damage onto the creature, and then the rest carries over to the player, and then that also counts for the other strike gets to go onto the player too.
So if the 7 power of the first strike is enough to kill it, whatever else is left over from first strike goes over, and then all of the second strike goes right through the player anyway.
So if they put like a 3-drop in front, they're taking 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, that turn. Now, the coolest part, so this is back to Elspeth, because I decided, in my infinite wisdom, that I was going to put 1 Elspeth in the deck, because I felt that it would give me a better game against control decks. Now, I have no idea what that means. I might have been right, but this is what I thought, is that if they kill all my creatures, like the Wrath of God, which was legal in the format and played heavily.
Like literal Wrath of God?
Actual Wrath of God from 10th edition, yes.
Oh, 10th edition, okay.
Yes. Which, of course, my deck was quite vulnerable to. I ended up putting, what is that rhino called? Dauntless?
Oh,
He's got a shield.
yes, I have it in my commander deck. It's
Dauntless guy. He is dauntless.
Dauntless Escort.
Dauntless Escort.
Yeah, because you sack him to make your whole team indestructible.
Yeah, so he was like protecting my combo. But anyway, they would sweep my board pretty often.
Yeah.
And even though I needed to have this combo be the main focus of the deck, I figured if I had a Planeswalker, that doesn't die to a sweeper, so I'll just start spitting out tokens and make my opponent come up with some other way to deal with my Planeswalker.
Right.
But I didn't have an Elspeth. But I had some packs.
Okay.
Now, this is before I got a little like pseudo-religious about cracking packs without drafting them.
Right.
I didn't actually have friends that drafted yet. I mean, maybe a few, but like I wasn't part of any draft groups. I never went to events. Like I had, like if I got packs, I opened them.
Right. Sure.
And so I decided I had, some stack of packs that I had wanted to shop and just hadn't opened, and I'm like, I'm going to open them. I'm going to see if I get an Elspeth, because it was the day before the tournament.
Right.
So the third one in, I opened an Elspeth.
Wow.
Which was unbelievable, because it was
Sweet.
from Shard's big set, and it's a mythic rare.
You,
and I was like,
you lucker.
this must be fate.
Was this the first block with mythics, or was that the block before?
First block.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Shards was the
Because
first.
originally the Planeswalkers from Lorwyn block were just rares.
Rares.
Yeah.
Just rares.
Little gold leafs on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was really
it
funny.
feels so weird now.
Yeah.
To consider a Planeswalker as anything other than a mythic.
Yeah. I played one Cryptic Command in that deck.
Nice.
Yeah. I remember I had.
See,
I think I
this-
had just gotten Twitter at the time.
This seems like good magic.
Yeah.
Cryptic, Elspeth.
Right.
I like this.
Oh no, I mean, and mine was like underpowered compared to what you could do in the format. I got in the car and I took one of my Rafiks and I put the seatbelt on him and I took a picture. I said, and he's ready to go to battle with me or whatever. But my number one memory from the tournament actually happened multiple times. I killed multiple people with Birds of Paradise.
Nice.
Just with the exalted triggers?
and stuff.
Wow.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, so you've got like Finest Hour and like maybe a random, what's it called, Noble Hierarch sitting on the ground.
Yeah.
And then like you draw Birds of Paradise and that thing can actually attack, and then next turn you're like, make a Rafik attack you. And they're like, oh crap. And they like take 6.
Yeah.
And then they're just like dead, and I'm just like, little bird, Yeah, it was great. I actually got 9th at that tournament.
Sweet.
And no, I had no idea what that meant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so close to top 8.
I didn't know what top 8 was.
Oh, no.
I was like, oh, I got 9th. And some guy's like, oh man, I'm sorry. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's not that good.
That's
And I
not-
just
yeah.
walked out. I just went to Dick's, got a burger, and went home. Like I had no.
Did you not win anything or?
Oh, I got some prizes, some hats.
Sure, yeah.
But like for me, there was no heartbreak because I had no clue how close I was to making top 8 at regionals. Those
sweet.
were the good times when I was naive.
Well, that actually leads neatly into a lot of what you do now, which is coverage on these tournaments for Wizards.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of want to give you a better question than like, what is that like? But
Well, ask me hard questions. I answer hard questions.
well, I'm just trying to think of one. Like,
Like, have I ever punched Rashad Miller?
have you ever punched Rashad
I
Miller?
tried. He moved.
Yeah, that's fair. He's
I'm
quick.
surprised. I was just
Deceptively.
actually going to say I'm surprised he could move that quick. So
He's cat-like.
cat-like.
Yeah.
I picture Rashad as the sort of person who would just let you punch him and then just like slowly
We're-
shake his head.
Rashad
Yes,
is
you actually are correct.
Yeah.
That is exactly who he is.
Rashad is someone we need to get on this podcast.
Yeah,
Well, I can arrange that.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Rashad's a good friend, so.
like, obviously it's the sort of work you enjoy, but God, it sounds grueling for you guys.
Yeah, so being on coverage is this crazy sort of roller coaster ride that I was not prepared for when I joined on.
Yeah.
I'm generally a pretty positive person. I was happy to do it. I'm like, this is going to be cool. I'm excited. Like I love Magic. I love talking to people. Like this is going to be awesome. And when you first get on coverage, if you're good, if you know your stuff and you come in there good, people love you, right? Because you're the new guy and because like you're bringing something that maybe they didn't have before. And I was like, wow, this is the best. Like everybody thinks I'm awesome.
Yeah.
I felt pretty good. Like it was really cool.
And you're talking about like people in the chat room or people in
Yes.
comments. Yeah.
Yeah, and like people on Twitter are like, wow, you're doing great, and like my friends or whatever. But then I ended up doing it, relatively full time, right? Like I do
Right.
all the GPs, I do all the PTs, and I do a lot of the other events that like you guys work on with us too, like Community Cup and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And so, they get used to you.
Right.
You're just the guy that's
Just
there.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really interesting because I had been doing the podcast for 3 or 4 years or something before I started doing coverage. And we never get complaints on the podcast. And there's a really easy reason for that. You just don't listen.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
people
yeah.
that don't like the show just go, this isn't for me, unsubscribe, don't listen, whatever.
Yeah.
And the people that like the show, they're like, hey, I like your show. So it's like, this is great, right? And it works out perfectly. But when you're on coverage, that's not the case.
No, because there's people who want to watch Magic that don't necessarily want to hear you personally.
Exactly, and so I am being thrust in front of various groups of people, and I'm going to appeal to some and not to others. Now, what that means is, and of course, some of them can be quite mean, quite trolling, and I did a podcast with Rich Hagan. Where
Yeah,
he talked
I was about
that.
to say, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't take it as hard as he does, to be honest. Like I'm a little more thick-skinned about it. But at the same time, it's like, man, I'm sure you guys get it too. It's just so tough because like my normal mentality is to address, like to engage with people. So if somebody came up to me like at a GP and they said, you know, I'm just really not happy with where coverage is at and I don't really like the way you do it, I would say, talk to me. Like, what do you got?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if they gave me constructive stuff or gave me things that I could actually think about, I would say, thanks for your time. Like, it wouldn't hurt my feelings. Like, I would be like, this is a product we're trying to put out. Let's do it. But, you know, when people, like, it's easy to ignore the trolls that are just like, this guy's ugly, or I don't
Yeah,
like him, or
sure.
just, you know, swear words or whatever, right? Like, that's whatever. Nobody cares
That's
about
just
that.
someone yelling into the void.
Right, but when people come on and they say, like, this person has no idea what they're talking about, like whether it's me or any of us on the coverage
Right.
team, or why did they hire this idiot, right? I wish that this person was in the booth instead of this person,
Right.
And if it happens to be me, you know, it's like, why can't we have blank instead of Marshall, right? It's like, or whenever Marshall comes off, I turn it off,
Right.
Now, you guys know how this is, and I'm sure everybody's experienced some level of this in their life where, you know, you get 99 out of 100 on a test,
Yeah.
and you can't stop thinking about that one you got wrong,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, it's one of those things where the feedback I get is generally very positive. Like, I feel very confident, very good. I feel like I'm improving, I'm on the right track, I'm being where I need to be. But those things that pop up like that, if you let your guard down, they sting, and they get you, and they make you think about, like, am I doing something wrong? Because, I mean, everybody makes mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Like, I make mistakes on the air all the time. And so then I'm an idiot, right? And I don't know what I'm talking
And
about.
it's weird. It's something that I think a lot of people have no sort of
Point of reference?
point of reference for, because and I know that this happens a lot with you know, like, again, like with various members of the crew. Like, I know that's something that, like, for example, Alex and Kathleen deal with a lot. That they'll you know, tons and tons and tons and tons of positive feedback, and that's awesome. And then one person is like, you guys suck, and they're, you know, they just take that really hard.
Yeah.
And it's like, but there's all the other people who think that you're great, and it's like, but that one person said the thing, and it's weird how that really cuts right through you.
Yeah, and I've managed to deal with that pretty well, but it'll still get me every once in a while. The key is, I think one of the things that's a challenge for me specifically is that, like, people think, so, like, when I'm on the air, you know, you're seeing like 90% of how I would normally be. I'm maybe a
Right.
little tuned up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, hey, there's a thing here, guys. You know,
Yeah.
that
Well, I mean,
maybe-
we always tune up. You know,
Yeah.
we're always on.
Yeah, you got to be
Yeah.
on in some level, but it's not a big departure.
No.
You know, like, I had a chat with Rich that I referenced earlier, and he's a completely different person off air. Like, you would just, he's calm, he's
Yeah.
chill, like, you just wouldn't even know who he was, you know. But, like, if you take, like, me or BDM, you're going to get 80% of what you see on the air. You
Yeah.
know, we swear more. Like, that's, you know,
Yeah.
that's a big difference or whatever. But, you know.
Not as much as Brian.
No, Brian's a machine. Oh, Brian Wong?
Yeah, Brian
Oh,
Wong swears more
Yeah,
off camera.
Yeah, him and I are, it gets ugly. We're like sailors. But the thing is, I have to walk a fine line,
Yeah.
right? Like, when I'm on the air, I'm not doing the coverage that I would do.
Right.
Right? Like, if you listen to Limited Resources, that's the podcast that I would make. And I did. I made it because that's the vision that I had. And I said, I want to appeal to the people that are like me. They're curious. They consider themselves sort of almost scientific in the way they look at things. They're spiky, like, they want to win, they like winning.
Yeah.
But they also enjoy fun, right? And
Yeah.
like a wholesome sort of like a good, just clean game and good values within that.
And it's great for things like that because Paul, for example, he doesn't really play Magic outside of, like, when we just do, like, office drafts, but still sort of, like, he likes being connected to the game. He appreciates it from a gameplay perspective. He still listens to the set review shows.
Oh, wow, a trooper.
Yeah, he listens to the whole thing, like 5 hours friggin' long, doesn't actually really play.
Doesn't he listen to every episode?
I think he listens to every
I think he
episode, but
just
I know he
listens
listens
to
to
the show.
he listens
Yeah.
to set reviews faster than I do.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Yeah, he's crazy. I've talked to him for quite a while, and he knows his stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I love what he adds to the shows for you guys, too. Like, he just always seems to see the thing that's just like, oh, this.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
like, he's very,
Yeah,
I don't know,
I really
he's
like
got a
having-
really eye for Magic cards and how they interact and stuff.
It's been really cool having him on the sort of the production role recently for Tap Tap because, you know, he'll be sitting there with, like, the rulings as well because he's got to pull up the
the cards, yeah.
card images, and so sometimes we'll just see him, like, lean over to the microphone and we're like, oh, Paul's got something to say.
Yeah.
And then he'll sort of be like, you know,
What does
also
Kathleen call him? Disembodio?
Disembodio, yeah, that's a riff tracks reference there, yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't know, but I always thought that was funny. Oh, by the way, absolutely loved it when Kathleen was grading the cards in the rack pack for no reason.
Yeah.
She's like, I give it a B+. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, we're like, what's going on?
Like, why are
'Cause
you doing that?
She'd like just listen to the whole set review.
Yeah.
Basically, her process for listening to the set review is like put it on as she's falling to sleep, and so she listens to like half an hour until her like podcast player turns off, but only processes like 15 minutes of it. So she listens to like 15 minutes and then 15 minutes and then 15 minutes, but like it's playing while she's falling asleep. So she really internalizes a hell of a lot of the set review.
That's super awesome.
But so you were saying limited resources is how you do.
Yeah, and so when I
Magic.
get in front of the cameras for Wizards of the Coast, I'm working for them.
Yeah.
Right, they pay the checks, and I don't get to dictate how I would do it. I would make the stream spikier, right? Like
Right.
I prefer to go deep on cards, and I like to be able to use slang freely and just assume, look, if you want to watch this with me, you're going to have to be up to a certain level. Now, I'm not going to make it inaccessible. Like, think limited resources, right?
Right.
I'd like somebody who doesn't play a lot of Magic to be able to tune in and know what we're talking about. But at the same time, you know, we do assume that you know some of the terms we're using. Like, we're not going to be like, the creature's toughness is how much damage, you know, like, we're not going to do that.
You don't want to do that, but at the same
Yeah.
time, like the pros especially like to use some pretty weird like
They're very
nicknames
inside
for
base.
cards.
Well, they're really inside base.
Yeah.
Deeply inside baseball.
Yeah.
And this is their whole life. So they don't know that they're talking. They're just like, well, we're all Magic players, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, there are percentages of people that listen, but you know, I've been on the streams for a while now, and I know all the numbers and stuff that we get, and like, you know, we had like, if you take like Worlds Week that we did before
Right.
last year, like we literally broke 1 million viewers uniques over the course of like 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Right? There's not that many people that know these hardcore
Yeah.
inside baseball type terms that people use, so it's just
And so you have to
not good.
you have to put yourself in a position where you know you're trying to you're not doing like the power and toughness is whatever, but at the same time you are trying to like give openings for explanation for people at home who might not understand, especially for I remember one instance. I don't know. You said you could take hard questions. I remember one instance. I'm watching a modern GP. I think it might have even been a modern Pro Tour, and you're in the booth with a gentleman you just had on the One for One podcast. You're in the booth with Zach Hill, and you're trying to set up one of those learning moments for the audience. You're like, now, why would so-and-so have attacked with this instead of this or whatever? And Zach replies, and I'm paraphrasing here, but broadly speaking, he's like, well, you know. He just sort of is like,
Yeah.
he basically tells you, you know, learn the game, Marshall.
Right.
And there was a dead air, there was like a moment of dead air there where I was
Filled with scowling.
yeah, where I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I can. It's like if Marshall could say it here, he'd be saying, "I know, idiot. I want you to explain it to the people at home."
Yes, and
Yeah.
that's exactly what happened there. And him and I had a chat after that too, because I think he figured it out. I mean, Zach Sharp, but
Oh, yeah,
in
yeah.
the moment he did not. And
Okay,
I'm just
he
like,
gets very into.
Yeah.
Like he gets very excited about what's going on in the things.
Yeah.
Sometimes to the
and
detriment
we've
of
been
the
in
board
booth all
state.
day, and I think he thought that we were having a conversation about Magic.
Yeah.
And he thought I was asking a dumb question.
Right.
Right. And I'm just like, Zach, like, work with me here, buddy.
Yeah.
And he did. You know, to
Yeah.
his credit, he did figure it out. But in the moment, I was super frustrated. Like,
Yeah.
because he kind of threw me under the bus a little, and I just felt like,
Well, because
I know the damn answer.
because that
Yeah.
undercuts you
Yeah.
to the viewers. That
Exactly.
makes you look like an idiot.
It makes me look like an idiot. And
Yeah.
I'm already in the seat that makes me look like an idiot enough, because I have to be the one to say those things, those obvious things. And there's some funny sort of, to use an overused phrase, metagame stuff that we
Yeah.
have where, you know, they've done some focus group type studies on the viewers of streams for games, and especially for Magic players in general, not just viewers, but Magic players in general. And one of the things they found out was that basically they all put themselves as the smartest person in their peer group, which that can't be true, right?
Yeah.
There's a spectrum here.
Yeah.
Right? And so if everybody, or you know, if the majority of people that watch our product or use Magic or play Magic think that they're smart, they love to have that reinforced. Just people like to
Right.
that think that they're smart and that value being smart, love to think that they're smart and be able to show it. So it's funny because, like, if Rich goes on the air and asks a question that I guarantee he already knows the answer to, but is doing it as like a softball for the people that are still learning and still picking up the game, they get to be like, what an idiot. Why do they have that guy on the stream? And of course I get some of this too. Why would he ask such a stupid question? Everybody knows the answer to that. And the hilarious part is that Rich is actually giving them what they want. they just don't know it because they're not smart enough, even though they think they're smarter, which
next
is the
level
reason.
them.
Yeah, so it's like a super next level. But it's really funny. Like, one thing I try to do is I go to F&M when I'm at home.
Right.
And one of the I go to for fun. The local F&M's draft, so I just have a good time, don't get me wrong. And I like to try to smash people too. But I also like to stay in touch with the F&M level player.
Yeah.
Because the pros have left F&M behind a long time ago. They just don't have what they want there, so they won't go. And most of the Wizards employees can't. It's just, I mean, they technically could show up, but like they're not getting paid
why would you
for
go
it.
to watch people play
it just
Magic?
doesn't make a lot of sense, right? And I'm in that thin molten crust layer that can still play, but also has 1 foot, in the the workings of what happens on at least part of what Wizards does.
Yeah.
And I feel super in touch with that crowd. And they don't know these terms, and they need to be told them in a concise, like in a respectful way. Like, they don't want to be taught like, here's a blackboard and here's how this works. But like, anytime I have that little twinge in the back of my head when somebody says something like, "Oh, so he's abyssing this guy," I'm just like, I remember 3 years ago I did not know what that meant. And I'm going to say, that's a cool terminal, but you need to say what that means.
I
hold
literally,
their feet to the fire.
only know what that means because they put Abyss in the powered holiday cube like a year ago.
Right.
So Abyss is an old card. It's a world enchantment, which is a thing they don't even print anymore. That's just every upkeep.
On each of your upkeeps, each player must sacrifice a creature.
It's actually not sacrifice.
It's destroy.
It's destroy. So you can give it. If you have protection from black, it doesn't die. But whatever.
And
that's
so
a technicality.
I mean, that's relevant. It's played in Singleton 100 in Victoria.
Is it?
Heavily.
And so what
not heavily,
what someone means when they're saying that is like you've set up a board state wherein you are attacking with a creature that is large enough or whatever that your opponent is obliged to block it, to throw a creature away every turn. So you are abyssing them every turn. They're destroying a creature every turn.
Yeah.
But that's such a weird. Like, when was that card printed? Like 20 years ago? 1994. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, what a weird reference, and for some people it's like, oh, obviously, and but most people have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times in the booth, I feel like the term you just use, obviously, is my enemy.
Right.
Because what'll happen is, let's say we're talking about a current limited format, and I've got a pro.
Right.
Okay, and it's after the PT, like we're in here for M15. The pro's been in a house with 10 other pros for 2 weeks, grinding limited matches where everybody's coming to conclusions, they're fighting, they're arguing, but they're certainly coming to reasonable rankings and conclusions.
Yeah.
Then they will come on the stream 2 weeks after that, like here, and they'll be like, well, white's obviously the best color. And it's like, you realize that most people have drafted this set 1 or 2 times?
Yeah.
Like most of the people that we're watching that care about draft at all have drafted this like 0 to 2 times.
I mean, the set is literally coming out on Magic Online like that day or the day before.
Like, it's been out for a couple days.
Yeah.
And maybe they went and done their pre-release, but maybe they haven't had a chance to go back to the store. Most people don't like. We are draft junkies. Even in the Magic world, like we are like, Magic Online draft a bunch. I draft every day, and pros put us to shame. They'll draft 8 or 9 times in a day, but your average fan will draft like once a week.
Yeah.
If that, and that's if they're like a limited player. Like listeners of the podcast of LR and stuff. And so saying something is obvious is. I find it a little insulting.
Yeah.
I'm just like, that is just not obvious. Like,
it is
plain and simply, you must back up what you're saying. You cannot come on the stream and just start spouting obvious this and not close that and expect people to just be like, yeah, sure.
It is obvious to the people who draft as much as they do for the purposes of testing for something like that, and there are less than 100 people in the world like that.
Yeah. The biggest problem with that as well is that a pro will come on and say obviously, and the viewers at home will be like, oh, obviously, but they won't understand why.
No.
Right? They get from A to B, but there's nowhere in between. They're not learning why.
Like they'll be like, I remember this came up in this was maybe like a year and a half ago in Kenji's stream, New Month of Nami, when he was still doing his year-long thing. And this was, I don't remember what block it was. This was Ravnica block. I think it was when Dragon's Maze came out. And people were like, people in his chat room were giving him shit for the way he was drafting Dragon's Maze, because Ben Stark had said in his article that this way was the correct way to do it, and obviously there is no other way.
Right.
And Kenji was like, "Yeah, that's cool. This is how I'm doing it."
Right.
Right. And it was this weird like setup where it's like, you don't you don't know that that's better. You just know that Ben Stark says it's
Yeah.
better.
Exactly.
Granted, he's probably the best drafter in the world, but you are in no position to say this.
Avison restored. I stand by. Green, black, fabulous.
There you go. Right. So, and the thing, that I'm leading up to here is that I get to be the one to be the voice to say, to be the arbiter between the two.
Right.
And sometimes to people that already know better, that makes me look dumb, even if I know better. But it's one I have to take for the team. So that's just one of the challenges of being on coverage. But overall, it's great. I mean, the travel's a little rough. It catches up to you sometimes, the time zones and stuff like that. Getting up early, it's very hard work.
Well, that's
But
actually what I
overall,
wanted to.
it's super fun.
Yeah, well, that's actually what I wanted to sort of finish up with in a more sort of, I guess, lighter, just sort of interesting. I love sort of hearing like behind the scenes, like what is like for. I mean, the Pro Tour is a massive thing, but for like a GP, what does the whole coverage team do? What is the behind the scenes of that?
Yeah, it's actually it breaks down fairly simply these days, although it's gotten a little more complicated recently. The coverage team is broken up into 7 people. There are 3 on-air commentators. I'll be one of them, usually for North America, and then 2 others that can be any combination of Magic pros or people from Wizards or whatever.
And you sort of like cycle off into pairs over the course of the day?
Yes,
or?
we'll just cycle 2 people in and 1 person out. That way, at any given time, 1 person can be out of the booth. And then I'll tell you about what we do out of the booth in a bit. And then there's Rashad.
Yeah.
So he runs the show from the technical perspective. He also gives a lot of input as far as like the content and stuff, and I usually do that too. It's kind of me and him doing that.
Right.
And then we have 2 text writers. Now they're separate from the video team, like they sit in their own area and do their own thing, but we work with them. Like they're part of the team and we do that. And then we have 1 video expert. I'm not really sure how to put it, but we have multiple people that will put in that role. We've had Sean from Walking the Plains in there. We've had Garth Avery, who works down at Wizards of the Coast proper. He's an employee down there. We've had Rich Castle, who works for Gathering Magic and has done the Inside the Deck series, and a bunch of other people that we rotate into that slot. And basically, the main goals are the video people are on video. That makes sense. Rashad is sitting behind massive computer monitors, pushing buttons and making sure the stream doesn't go down.
And then slowly shaking his head at you.
And shaking his head at me constantly. And then the writers are doing the tech side. They stay over there and do the tech side. And then the key, though, the big X factor for anything is that we've set a goal about 6 months ago or a year ago, something like that. We used to run replays.
Right.
Because the fact is Magic tournaments have certain constraints to them that are very hard to work around from a viewer perspective. Mainly that about half the time in a Magic tournament, people aren't playing Magic.
Yeah.
And that's really tough because we can get 3 or 4 matches in the feature match area, but once they end, we can't pick players up and move them because it messes with the integrity of the tournament. Like if they're in the middle of a game, they're like, oh, just remember all your lands. Like that's out of the question. Judges wouldn't allow that anyway. So what that means is we will have anywhere from 10 to 40 minutes of downtime in between rounds where there is no live Magic for us to show. And people often don't understand that it's not just that, we'd love to show you more live Magic, but there just isn't a possibility.
Right.
So we used to show replays of previous matches, but people really didn't like it, that it was like they felt like they were watching more replays than live Magic.
Right.
So.
And also they rarely get to see the end of it because as soon as live Magic is ready again, you cut back to
right, and it's a
Magic.
horrible. You get emotionally invested in who's going to win this match, and then you're like, "Hey guys, welcome back to the booth." And guess who gets to be the first face they see to disappoint them, right? So that is not a great long-term solution. Maybe if we pick like one match that was particularly good and that we can be for sure fit in, I think that would be pretty cool. But so the mandate is, well, let's not do that anymore. Let's make original content that we are going to film and produce on site specific to the event. So what that
Which I've been
means-
really enjoying.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we put a lot of work into it. It is a compromise. So when we get on the site on Saturday morning, we don't start filming. We don't go live until the 4th round, and that's because there's buys. So most of the high-name pro players aren't in the field yet, and also because we need a gap of time to make this content that we're going to run in between rounds. There's
So
only so
you
much
actually
time.
crank this content out on the Saturday morning of the GP.
Yes.
That's crazy.
It is insane. Like, it is an absolute rat race. I'm planning the night before, just trying to like go, okay, guys, and when we get here, we get there at like 8, and we're just like, somebody turn on a camera and somebody be in front of it for the next 3 hours at least. Because if we're not, then we're just punting away value here. Because
And then that video guy you talked about is spending the 4th round going and
putting
just
the bumpers on
crazily
the ends.
editing it together.
Yes, and then what happens is we will get a couple of big chunks that we can use in the early stages booked and in the bucket, and then the video guy will start editing the rest of it and sort of be, he's like 1 or 2 steps ahead of where we're at for the rest of the weekend.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the third person who's not in the booth runs the feature match area, so they'll run over and grab the players, so they'll help pick the feature matches. The text writers are ultimately the ones that pick them, but the video has input on it too, because sometimes we tell storylines, and we want to make sure that we don't miss on a big
Why does the text writer pick what's on the video feature match?
because before we used to be in the booth.
Oh.
And you have to be right there because there's a big rush to pick the feature matches. And so we would have the text writers do it because they know all the players. They've been doing this for years for the most part. But now we have video input in as well, because let's say we're James is about if he gets top 16 of this GP, he gets gold, right?
Sure.
And we're following James throughout, and now he's on the precipice of doing just that, and they don't know that we're running that story. They might just be like, oh, who's this James guy, whatever, right? We'll put some random pro that we happen to recognize his name. No, we want this one. This is what we've been following.
Right.
So we get to do that. Once that happens, the person who's not in the booth runs over, gets the players seated, make sure that they're in the right seats, and everybody gets sorted and gets all settled over in the feature match area. Then once the round starts, you've got a little bit of time. And that time can be spent sitting down for a quick rest, grabbing a bite to eat if you need that, hit the restroom, whatever. And then what we'll usually try to do is record something. So I'll grab the video guy, and I'll hover around the player that I want to get the deck tech for, or the interview of, or whatever. If it's day 2 and there's some pros on site that didn't make day 2, I'll be like, hey, can I do an interview with you? I'll go to the artists and do an interview with them, maybe talk to the tournament organizer or the head judge, and I'm just trying to crank out more stuff so that we have more buffer, more high quality stuff to do in between. So then we'll record those pieces. But then, if you're outside the booth, you got to rush back over to the feature match area, because the way we have it set up is we have 2 feature matches that have cameras over them, and then we have 2 that don't.
Right.
And so if one of these seats becomes, or one of these groups becomes open.
One of the groups with cameras?
Yeah. So let's say the match just goes 2-0 really quick. Somebody gets mana screwed twice, and that seats are empty now.
Right.
If one of these games goes to game 3, one of the non-camera games, we will move them over.
You'll be like, could you start game 3 over this table?
Yes.
Sure.
So let me know when this game ends, or I'll just hover. And once the game ends, are you guys going to game 3? Yeah. We need you to move, because that's easy to do.
Yeah.
They just grab their deck box and they just move. And then that way we have sort of an outlet to go back when our main match ends.
Let's go watch game 3 of this thing, and then whoever's been watching the feature match area can then step into the booth or jump on a mic and be like, so in game 1 and game 2, this is what happened, and now you're seeing game 3.
Yes, and we have a stick mic that we can use. It's just a shotgun that we just hold, and we just say, hey guys, this is what's going on, and we'll do that. And once that one ends, then we're doing video playback until the whole process ramps up again. And then we usually switch somebody out of the booth, or maybe do 2-2-2-2 or whatever, and then we go like that for the 6 rounds that we have left on day 1. When we come back for day 2, we do the same process over again, except for we don't record anything in the morning because the tournament starts promptly.
Yeah.
So you get there at 8 a.m. on the Saturday.
Yeah.
Rashad starts running wires everywhere.
He's there on Friday to set up.
Oh,
yeah,
good.
because he has to run so many wires. He does that out of his suitcase.
Yeah.
We just got a big computer, a special broadcasting computer that we ship with. We call it the kit. It's the thing that gets freighted everywhere. You know, those black boxes from a band.
Road cases.
Road cases, thank you. Yeah. We have some of those, and we keep a big part of our thing in that now. But before, Rashad had 2 full-size suitcases.
They would just check in and
Literally
fly.
everything. All the cameras, everything was in there, except
That
for
would
the
terrify
cables
me.
and a couple of things. Yeah. Laptops, the monitors. For a while, then he had.
So he's got to make sure the internet
mixer
works, which convention hall internet has to be a hellscape.
That is the one thing that I don't have to deal with.
Thank God.
Thank God. I don't think I could do it.
And I noted at this GP that the lights over the main stage area were off because that would have caused glare on the cards.
That's correct. So we always have to work with what we have as far as the setup goes, because before the whole thing even starts, they have a floor plan for how the GP is going to be laid out. They need a place for the artists. They need a place for the vendors.
Yeah.
They need a place for
and that's done by the tournament
match.
organizer, which is different from most GPs,
Wizards.
right?
It's different from they're regional,
Yeah.
right? And everybody has their own idea of how to run their event. They've been planning the thing for 6 months, out. So they're all kind of dead set in their ways. They're usually flexible with this, but there's only so much they can do. There's fire safety things to consider. So it's a big mess. And Rashad, thankfully, has to deal with all that on Friday. When I come in on Saturday, we know where we're at, and we're mostly set up,
Right.
so that we can start recording right away.
Wow.
Yeah, it is a zoo. Like, this job is hard. It's very difficult. It's super fun. Like, I mean, obviously I wouldn't do it if I didn't like it. Like, I love doing it. It's awesome. And the people are really, really cool. And, like, the Magic community, I mean, you guys, like, I've met so many ridiculously awesome people through this, and I would just never trade it. But it is not easy. Like, doing this gig is rough.
Well, what I thought was, and I think one of the things that makes it worthwhile is at the end of last year, Twitch TV released a whole bunch of interesting statistics from all of their broadcasting. And one of them was the highest, the most often used search term for all of 2013 was people searching for Magic.
Yes.
Because they're not people who watch Twitch. They're people who just want to go on and watch Magic.
Right.
And so they just. This is me inferring
That's
why.
what I'm assuming too.
Why there's a search term for this would be because people are like, I want to watch Magic. I'll go to Twitch. Where do I find the Magic? Magic. Search for it.
Right.
Because they're not into watching replays or speed runs or stuff like that. They just want to go on and consume Magic every weekend.
No, it is fun when we get to feel like we're part of something big. We're building something big. When I came onto the coverage team, we were very much in a ramping up stage where they had only been covering the top 8s of GPs on Sunday only, and they were looking to expand that out. So they did the news desk, and then they brought in a bunch of extra commentators to help fill out all those seats, and I happen to be one of those. And we've just been on the ramp ever since, trying to like constantly push things forward and hit our stride and figure out like, well, where can we do more and that kind of thing. And it has that feeling of like a new startup company where everybody's excited and pushing and willing to work hard and make sacrifice to get to where they want to go.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I think it's like it's. I have some minor suggestions for improvements here and there, which I actually spoke with Rashad about. But
you give me great feedback, by the way, like the best out of anybody. I'll
Thank
get
you.
texts from you, and I'm just like, thank God, because this is like, because you're reasonable.
Right.
You take the middle line.
I try to be,
Yeah.
But if you compare it to, like what was going on like 2 years ago, like you guys are making huge leaps and bounds
Yeah,
forward.
hopefully it keeps getting better too. I want it to be better.
Yeah. I mean, that's all anyone wants for anything is just better than it was.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that was really cool. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me on. I would come back on this podcast every time. It's funny, when I listen to the show, I feel like I'm hanging out with my friends. Like, I mean it. Like that's what the show serves for me, because I know you guys personally. So I'm just like, I'm going to hang out with my friends, and I put on your podcast, and I just feel like I'm sitting there hanging out with you guys. And it's a special show for me, just because normally I feel like I'm listening to somebody talk about whatever, and I'm like, okay, this is informational, but this is, for me, it's more personal. I love the show.
Sweet. Thank you.
Now make my journey into Nick's show.
Yes, I will do the journey to Nick's.
No, it's too late. It's too late.
No,
now.
don't you dare
No,
say
I'm
too
still
late.
going to do it. I have to. I said I would, even if it's a bonus episode.
And we have an awesome from our panel stipulation draft for you to join in on sometime.
Oh,
so,
I'm always into those.
so that could be fun.
So yeah, thanks for joining us for the TTC from the road from Portland, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Bye, guys.